Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Of course, it is afternoon for you.
Yes, it is 4 o'clock here in Hungary.
So we've gathered together to just talk about your service, particularly as a GBC member, a member of the governing body commission of ISKCON. And maybe we could just start off with just a few comments about yourself. Tell us something about your life and your family, and maybe even a little bit of how did you ever become a GBC?
First of all, thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you. It is always really refreshing to spend time with you, Gopal Bhatta Prabhu. And of course, I would like to greet all the viewers on Facebook, YouTube, and on any other media that they could be on. So, little background of myself. I became a devotee when I was 16, and I became a devotee with my mom. I was living with my mom and with my cousin and with my grandma in a small flat. And well, it's a long story, but to keep it really short, I started going to different programs, festivals that were there in town. And I went to Shivaram Swami's festival that was there one evening, and it was so fantastic. I just went home with a Bhagavad Gita in my hand, and I was reading until morning. I was really, really excited, and that was in '94, and it was so interesting that my mom was working in the main post office, and she was in charge of 360 other post offices as an internal auditor. And I just asked her, there will be a Ratha Yatra festival in Budapest. Would you arrange a bus for the devotees? So they had buses in the post office. She arranged that, and she said, under one condition, I'm coming with you. I want to see what you do. I said, fine, come. So we went up, and on the way back from Budapest, she said, okay, I want to become a devotee. Give me my beads. She chanted 60 rounds on the way home, and that was it. She got initiated before me. She went to the farm before me. She's a fantastic lady. And yeah, well, I'm married, and I'm married to Chandra Devidasi, who is a disciple of Shivaram Swami, and we have two wonderful daughters. The bigger one is 12, the smaller one is 10, or will be 10 in December. And my wife is managing the Gurukul in Krishna Valley, and my daughters are studying there. And of course, one really important aspect in my life, I am a disciple of Srila Bhaktibinoda Govinda Swami, and I'm just so happy to be his disciple, and I try to serve him as much as I can.
And how did you become a GBC member?
Oh, that's an interesting thing. So I believe that most of the viewers, and of course you know Shivaram Swami. So Shivaram Swami is really organized. Shivaram Swami is a strategist. He knows how he would like to do things in the future, how he would like to see Hungary and Hungarian ISKCON in the future, and all of these things. And he said that I would really like to do three more things in my life. One is that I would like to train a GBC who could replace me. I would like to see some of my disciples as becoming sannyasis, so I can train them to be perfect sannyasis or good sannyasis. And I would like to see some of my disciples becoming initiating spiritual masters.
mm,
so that I can train them.
mm,
So I was somehow in that category of training someone to be a GBC who could eventually replace Shivaram Maharaj. Of course, it is impossible to replace Shivaram Maharaj in any regards. But it was a couple of years, 5 years, while he was training me, or he tried to train me, and I tried to be a humble servant and try to uh, do everything according to my understanding. And eventually, 2 years ago, after doing the GBC training and being mentored by Shivaram Swami, and had really good mentoring with some other senior GBCs. Then eventually the GBC body decided that, okay, Radha Krishna can become a GBC.
mm.
So then I'm serving the devotees now in Hungary, Turkey, Romania, and Greece.
Mm. Now, you also do an awful lot of international service, and interesting, even as what you might call a younger GBC member, you're actually a key member and a key driver of the GBC nominations committee, which directly has the direct responsibility to suggest to the GBC body the next GBCs. So I think that yes, you do an excellent job in your zone, but you have also taken on international service of great import. So you're an ideal person.
I really think that international responsibilities are crucial, especially at this time,
Mm,
because there are so many global things that are happening in the world. And being just a local person will be good for local people. But if we would like to expand, and if we would like to share best practices, if we would like to really manage an international society, we should be international.
mm,
And for that, I really believe that the nomination committee's work is really crucial, because the nominations committee's main job is to find future leaders of ISKCON. And when we are speaking about succession, then finding the future leaders, well, that is one of the hardest things.
yes,
And
very difficult.
and it's not just the hardness of it. It's also how we see ISKCON in the future, like 100 years from now. And if we really think about it, how we would like to see ISKCON 100 years from now, then we have to lay the foundation now.
Mm,
That's why I wanted to take responsibilities in the nominations committee. And as a global duty officer before I became a GBC, that was my main service, and I was so happy for that.
mm, mm,
It was really great working with so many bright people as Tapam Mishra Prabhu and Govardhan Prabhu and Gauranga Prabhu and Konteya Prabhu and so many others in the nominations committee. And
mm.
yeah, it's just fantastic.
It's wonderful. We wanted to cover three things today. Uh, Pretty much at the top level, but to the extent that you can drill into some of the details. You know, COVID-19, the coronavirus is, of course, everybody is largely aware of all of that. So maybe speaking about how you've managed to overcome and even possibly even take advantage of that. A second topic would be, as a GBC member, what do you see the future challenges of ISKCON are? And then a third is, I know that you're extraordinarily dedicated to education. Srila Prabhupada wants ISKCON to be or to become an educational institution, essentially. So maybe we could talk about those three, and let's start with this COVID. I think that you were one of the earliest leaders to jump on that and deal with it. tell us what caused you to jump on it really quickly, and what are some of the things that you initially did to serve the devotees, to keep safe and like that.
Well, one of the leaders' duty is to protect, lead and protect. So when these things are happening, well, protection can only be done if you have knowledge about things that are happening outside of your circle. So for that reason, we are always looking to the external things, how that can affect our society, our ISKCON society, and when this whole pandemic started in China, then in Wuhan, we were really on it, and when was that? In the beginning of February, maybe. That's when here in Hungary we thought that, okay, let's start an emergency leaders team. So we collected those devotees, doctors, managers, financial experts who could come together, and we started looking at what can we do. What if this will come to Europe? What is our reaction to all of these things? And when we've heard that in Wuhan there was a major lockdown, how would we react to these if that would happen in Hungary? So and just a couple of weeks later, the Hungarian government were really serious and very strict in all of these things. So they started a lockdown, and it was good because we were more prepared than if we could have just started then when the Hungarian government jumps on the topic. So what I think is that the most important thing is that we can act quickly. In these times, we should act quickly, and we have responsibility for all the devotees. So we set up different communication venues for the full-time devotees, for the congregation, and we started communicating with those devotees and also non-devotees who are employed or who were employed by ISKCON Hungary. And well, in Krishna Valley, it was a real quick close down. We had a Roshti, and the next day we closed down the whole thing. And actually, it was a major challenge because we know how devotees feel in these circumstances, and not seeing the deities, not being able to go and render service to the deities and to the community. I mean, that's a major thing, and that's why immediately we set up an online communications and preaching team consisting of 12 devotees. And we started 26 different venues for online communication, broadcasting, programs, this, that, whatever, because we wanted everyone who cannot go in the temple to be engaged, informed. So we tried these things. Of course, we learned a lot, what we could do differently next time. And
so what are some of those differences, and what are some of the advantages that came out of all of this?
Well, some of the advantages is that we could actually plan much more ahead than we usually do. We always have a 12 to 16 month lead in planning. So we have an annual plan, we work according to that. and we usually finish the annual plan by October. So beginning of November, we already have the next year's plan. Now we have a full plan, activities, financial plan until 2021 December.
Hmm.
But that is always changing. So during this lockdown, we have changed our plans 8 times.
Hmm.
So changing, adjusting, based on the knowledge that we can have and the information we can have, and rapidly, quickly change. I mean, that's really, really important. The other thing that was really a major thing is that we were forced to really think about being self-sufficient,
Hmm.
because up until now it was okay. Tourists are coming. We have 25-30,000 tourists every year. The shop is working, restaurants are working, all of these things are fantastic. But if we are not self-sufficient when there is a lockdown,
Hmm.
that just really does not work. So we have, over the years, we have developed different measuring systems of understanding how self-sufficient Krishna Valley is, and we know and we understand that Krishna Valley is not fully self-sufficient. I mean,
Or is there any rural community in ISKCON that is self-sufficient? I don't think so.
I can hardly think that there are any rural communities that are self-sufficient in the world.
I mean, I'm not sure if there is I'm not sure if there's an argument that Krishna Valley is the most self-sufficient of any farm, and most probably the most successful rural community in ISKCON.
Well, if that's the case, then look at the numbers. Krishna Valley is self-sufficient 33%, 34.
Hmm.
If we speak about the garden, well, there are more than 50 different departments. So we put everything together. Self-sufficiency would mean that we have our own education system. We can produce what we need. But in Krishna Valley, it's like we use metal tools, of course. We don't have a forgery or anything like that. So it's like we are also dependent on the outside world. But in terms of food, grain, honey, and things like this, like we have 10 times more grain than we need. And
that's a fact, actually. You export, don't you?
We sell honey, but we do not produce enough vegetables. We do not produce enough fruits. So so we have to be really careful when we say how self-sufficient a community is. Krishna Valley is going in a really good direction, and now the plan is that 2022 September, Krishna Valley should become self-sufficient in food, milk, honey or sweeteners, grain, oil, herbs, spices.
Wow.
But
and did the coronavirus kind of drive that home even stronger?
Coronavirus, well, sorry for saying that. It really kicked us at that part, so that we really move forward with this. And the devotees are really fired up. Now there are 30 devotees who are in self-sufficiency departments, in the agriculture, in the Goshala, in the garden, in the flower garden, and in the apiary. 30 devotees out of the 97 who are adults in Krishna Valley. So that's like 30% of the that's good. That's a good number. Well, in the US at the present moment, there's 0.4% people who are working in agriculture. 0.4. It was a bit more 100 years ago. So So that was also one aspect, that we had to reevaluate the speed how we would like to become self-sufficient.
Did you change up your, I mean, the Hungarian Yatra, as well as Turkey and other places, are famous for widespread, very strong book distribution. Much of that got shut down in a moment. How did you adjust to that?
Well, it definitely did, and that's one of the areas that we should have been much more forward going. So our book distribution plummeted quite rapidly, and well, that was just from one day to the other practically, and we were not focusing enough on developing that area. There were some devotees who were doing book distribution through their connections, through the phone or online, things like this. And actually, that's one aspect that we need to focus on much more, not just book distribution, but to have, as you always say, where is our database? Where are the people who you can reach out to? I mean, do we have, I don't know, 30, 40, 50,000 people who we can reach out to, who we are in regular contact with every 6 months? I mean, there's quite some room for improvement in that area.
Well, when we start talking about improvements, let's look at the broader ISKCON. At times at GBC meetings, as a junior member, you've spoken up as if you were the most senior member, and provided the GBC with some concepts of, boy, we've got to solve some problems. What do you see as the challenges of ISKCON going forward? And you know, what would you say are some of the main challenges of ISKCON going forward?
Well, there would be several categories in this area, and one of the categories is our systematic outreach. How do we really do that in a strategic way? And we've heard that so many times, that ISKCON became, from a temple-based society, a congregation-based society. Do we really know how to engage, serve the needs of the congregation? Do we really engage the congregation according to their capacity? I mean, there are some very good examples in ISKCON, like Radhanath Maharaj's area. That's a very good example for that. And I really believe that that we as ISKCON would need to focus much more on engaging the congregation according to their circumstance and according to their nature. Those devotees who are in the congregation, they are also giving their life. They are in a different status. They are in a different, not status, they are in a different circumstance. But at the same time, what I've seen over the years is that in their heart, in their activities, in their mind, they are really, really fantastic devotees who are serving ISKCON in the best of their capacity. And we would need, we meaning ISKCON internationally, we would need to be able to recognize the opportunities of engaging the congregation much more. The other thing is more of a managerial area. I see that Well, we all know that time is just going one way. It just goes forward, and we are just aging. Well, at least in this life. Um, so, if we see ISKCON's top management or leadership, if we see the GBC, well, there are devotees who are getting older and older and older, and they are already old. So what I see is that we would need to focus a lot on succession. And just as in the beginning, I was speaking about how happy I am that I can be part of the nominations committee, I see it as one of my duties to go and find devotees who can be the next generation of leaders within ISKCON. And we see the GPCs are overburdened. We see that everyone is overburdened. Managers and GBCs are also overburdened. And we would need to use technology in a much more efficient way to be able to manage. I remember once we were speaking about that, and I told you that I would like to become a GBC who's not traveling. I mean, travel just takes so much time and so much money, and now I can reach out to thousands of devotees through internet, through different medium like Zoom, Skype, whatever. And just if we look at my area, because of the lockdown, I could not visit Turkey, I could not visit Romania, I could not visit Greece. Well, there are so many things that are happening there. But to be able to be effective, I see that we need to have properly trained leaders in those areas.
So is there a span of management problem in ISKCON? Is that basically what you're saying?
Well, I would really like to see a lot of devotees being trained up as managers properly, not just, hey, Krishna Das, you become the next zonal supervisor in wherever, South America somewhere. No, it's not like that. We have to have a training, and that training should be a thorough training where devotees understand what Srila Prabhupada wanted from managers and from leaders, where devotees understand what does it mean to handle conflicts, how to deal with social, environmental, and economic problems, and all of these things should be there. Otherwise, he's a nice devotee, she's a nice devotee, why not? She can chant 60 rounds so nicely. She's there on Mangala Arati every morning for the last 15 years. She or he can be a leader or a manager. I don't think that we are way over that time.
Broadly, as ISKCON has grown, have we been able to maintain the standards that Srila Prabhupada expects of all of his temples and all of his leaders, and for that matter, the entire society? Do we have a standards issue that has to be addressed?
I think the GBC body recognized the need for standards way back. And that's why there are different ministers who are supposed to train and oversee different standards. But at the same time, it was just a structural band-aid. There was no training, there was no funding, there is still no proper funding. So there's no staff that can really act upon these things and have the devotees. Standards, it's a really nice talk when we speak about standards. We have to raise standards, we have to do this and that. But that has, how I see that, has four main aspects. One is that training should be in place. The other is the structure should be in place. The third is the staff should be in place, people should be in place. And the fourth is Lakshmi should be in place.
Mm,
If these
mm,
four things are not there, then it really doesn't matter how much we would like to raise standards, or not raise, but at least keep track of standards. We will fail,
mm.
as we have done in the past. So,
But it just, I hope you don't mind me going back to this.
yeah, sure.
Say these four again. I really want to zero in on these.
It was training, structure, people, and Lakshmi.
Mm, mm.
So, but as the organizational development committee co-chairman, you know this much better than I do, and that's why you're working on this for how many years now? 12, 13?
Oh, things sometimes go a bit slow in ISKCON. It's like a big ship that you want to turn, but it takes miles and miles to turn it. But yes, I mean, we have established a few things in each of those categories. We did establish the GBC College for Leadership Development, and have had over 350 devotees go through that so far. We've made some structural changes. You mentioned the GDO position, the Global Duty Officer. We also have the new position, relatively new position as Zonal Supervisor, which is the first position in ISKCON where you have to go through the training. It's actually the only position in ISKCON where there's actually actual training. So some of what you say is there. Structurally, we have a challenge. So, and then since you mentioned the GBC Organizational Development Committee, you know now for at least 2 years, maybe even 3 years, we have been actively inviting you to become a member. So let's not forget that you have more global service that you could be doing. So, okay, let's shift a little to the importance of education, since we brought up training as one of those four that you just mentioned. Tell us about your experiences in training, both locally and then you could also speak more about training on an international level.
Okay. Well, for me, training is like air. It's like without training, you cannot live.
Mm.
And well, I'm an agroeconomist and rural development engineer by profession, and this is a lifelong learning. And do so many things within ISKCON. It's lifelong learning. Well, in Hungary, we take education quite seriously. As you all know, Shivara Maharaj is a fantastic educator and a fantastic person. And just a couple of years ago, we started really developing or broadening our vision of training. And just going back to standard just for one sentence. Standards are there or should be there for each and every service that we do within ISKCON. Not that a cook does not have standards, or a book distributor, or someone who's a waiter in a Govinda's restaurant. So when we were discussing this, we had identified altogether 88 different services within ISKCON Hungary.
Wow.
88. How do you define standards for 88 different services? Well, what kind of competencies do we want these different services or the different devotees who are in these services to have? Does that really reflects in our everyday life all those competencies and all of these things? And just one little thing in this in regards to success. There are so many successes that we would like to achieve. Success in book distribution, success in going back to Godhead eventually, success in so many things. For me, over and beyond all of these general things, success could be when there is a friend of Krishna, not a full-time devotee, not an initiated devotee, a friend of Krishna who is not chanting, who just rarely comes to the temple for different functions, but she's a fantastic friend, or could be, when she seeks out a place of office to rent beside the temple so that she can bring her clients in the temple, because the atmosphere is so fantastic. That's success. That's preaching success. That is success, I think, on a level that we cannot imagine. Of course, it is good to have a lot of devotees moving in the temple and to have a lot of full-time book distributors and all these things. But ISKCON and Krishna consciousness will spread when we see these things happening, when people are coming in our temples, because the atmosphere is so uplifting that they would like to share that. They don't want to share Krishna directly, they want to share the atmosphere and the warmness of the devotees and the association. So that is training that can be achieved only through training. And what I say is that there are 3 different kinds of trainings that we would need to focus on. One is the newcomer. The other is those devotees who have been born to devotee families, meaning our children. And the third is internal education. How do we educate those 88 different services to the devotees so that it will be up to standard? So when we speak about these 4 things, or these three things, what I see is that for the newcomers, we have a sort of a setup within ISKCON. A sort of. But we would need to have a basic standard training that everyone is going through. So everyone can do basic things. Everyone knows how to speak about the Bhagavad Gita to an audience. Everyone would be able to play the karatals. Everyone would be able to cook prasadam and knows how to offer it. Just basic things. To the level when the internal education can kick in and it can really start developing according to time, place, and circumstance and the individual's nature, proper training so that he or she can do her or his service for life. And so that's the internal education part, where also standards are needed. But at the same time, if we do not focus a lot on developing education and training for our Krishna conscious children, then I think our movement will be stopped. There will always be newcomers who would like to become devotees, but are we able to keep the children who we brought into this world within the movement, within services, within the movement. Can we give them more than just academics? Of course, we can, but do we really train them from kindergarten up to college in a way that they will be responsible, beautiful adults who would be willing to dedicate their life for Srila Prabhupada's movement?
If we look worldwide, I'm just going to take a guess. 95 or 98% of our children in ISKCON are going to secular schools. It's just a reality for at least this generation, what to speak of even the next 1 or 2 generations afterwards. Our society is not developed strong enough. We don't have the money or resources broadly. I'm talking broadly. So what do we do with the education of our youth when the great majority of them are going to secular schools?
Well, I think we would need to grow up as an international society. If we cannot provide education from kindergarten to college to the different natured children, then eventually we will be stuck. As I said before, there always be newcomers because spreading Krishna consciousness will not stop. But we need to establish schools. We need to establish kindergarten, elementary school, secondary school, colleges, universities. We need all of these things. Not just establishing these, we would need to establish these things in a way that even non-devotee parents would like their children to go to devotee schools. And of course, we would need to develop the proper curriculum for these things, and we need to focus on education. That's without that, we will not be able to breathe. It's just like that.
Does the typical ISKCON parent have a lot of resources available to help them train their own children in Krishna consciousness, given that their children are largely going to secular schools?
I would go from a different angle. Do we need to force devotee parents to try to train their own children? Or can we provide what's
You're
needed?
talking about just supporting and helping.
Yeah, supporting and helping, definitely. Supporting and helping can be in so many ways. And I really believe that all of those things that have been developed, the books and online education and training and all of these things that have been developed over the years, those are very good. And those can really help parents who would like to train their children. But what do we do as a society? If we are really trying to become a society, I mean, we need to establish these things. If we would like to change the course of the broader society, how will we be able to do that? The cultural revolution that Srila Prabhupada spoke so much about. How will we be able to do that without having a strong educational system within ISKCON? And I'm not just speaking about educating children. I'm speaking about education on a broader scale. I mean, we need that. We need education.
So when we look at these challenges that are facing us, And knowing that, thousands of congregational devotees will be seeing this interview, what to speak of the fact that, we have hundreds of thousands of people who are aligned with us. What general advice do you have for the average devotee when it comes to these issues? What can they do?
Well, what I see is that to be able to have a strong community, we need to have strong bonds. And to have strong bonds, we need to respect each other. Respect each other for what we can offer, what each one of us can offer as a service to Srila Prabhupada's movement. And when we can move from finding fault to respecting and glorifying each other for what we can do or for what the other person could do, then when the bhav, when the mood will change, then it will help a lot for each and every person around the world, each and every devotee around the world. We are living in a world that is, it's like, it's like a social media time at the moment. Anyone and everyone can write whatever they would like to, and that's the absolute truth. What I really see is that respect the other person for what that person can do for the movement. That everyone can do.
It almost seems like if we had every single member focused simultaneously and continuously on answering the question, what can I do to help ISKCON, we would have a stronger society.
Definitely. That's absolutely right. We've heard that so many times that we have to find things in our circle of influence and not only in our circle of interest. Well, just as Gandhi said, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. So the question is, are we adjusting to time, place, and circumstance and just go with the flow, or we really can be the change? And the first thing that I will always have control of is, how do I see other people? How do I see other devotees? And if I see them for the service, what they have done or what they are doing with Srila Prabhupada, and if I think about the devotees and glorify the devotees based on that, then what wrong can come from that? And it's not just an ideal, naive kind of, it's like just hug each other. Well, it's social distancing, but to be together and have pizza together and things like this. No, just genuinely, do we really respect each other for what each of us or each of you have done for Srila Prabhupada? That we can do.
Well, I think this is a great way to end our time together. Our time is at that end point. I think your final message, is something that directly affects my heart, and I'm sure it affects the heart of everybody that's watching. I want to thank you so much for your valuable time, and illuminating all these different points. It's been a great experience just sitting here listening to you. So I thank you.
Thank you so much, Gopal Bhatta Prabhu, and thank you for the opportunity.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
All
Hare.
glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada.
Jai Haribol.